So welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with us here on Upfront on the Joy News channel. This evening we're joined by Dr. Charles Nyaba, who's Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. And we also have Anthony Morrison, who's CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness, both joining us to have a conversation about Ghana's rising inflation, particularly the food inflation, and how we can reverse this trend. Good evening, gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us. We believe that you're doing very well this evening.
Yes,
Wilson. Great, thank you. Thank you once again. So let me start off with you, Dr. Charles Nyaba. So, I mean, this is a conversation we had in the past. We've talked about, Ghana's rising food inflation. But of course, we're hoping that, by now, having talked about all the challenges we had, February, it was not that bad. But then it's been rising since. What's really the problem, Dr. Charles Nyaba?
Thank you. Good evening yourself, and then my good friend from Morrison. I think if you follow food prices in Ghana, you agree with me that what we are seeing now is not abnormal at all. We classify this part of the season as a lean season, where farmers would have depleted their stock to use in producing for the new season. We've also realized that in last year, when the main season started, our cost of production increased from 2,100 Ghana cedis to produce 1 acre of maize, rice to 3,900 Ghana cedis. And that the cost of high production was due to a number of factors. Some were domestic, some were international. At the international level, prices of input went very high. Fertilizers increased from 180 Ghana cedis previous years to almost 400 Ghana cedis. Cost of seeds went high. Government reduced subsidies on inputs, seeds, and fertilizers. Fuel prices went high. So that actually pushed cost of production very high. So majority of farmers actually have to reduce their farm sizes. Others have to shift from producing staple foods to tree crops like cashew. So this also impacted on supply of food for last year. So we realized that last year the total quantity of food that actually supply is less than the demand. So we were expecting to actually see what's happening, and we predicted that coming. So around this time of the season is where farmers who would have stored small to actually use for this year's production, we have sold everything. So when you go to the market, I mean, what you are expecting to see, you are likely not to see that in the market.
Let me bring Farmer Morrison in at this point and get his view also on, what is happening, why we're having to experience, these high rates. Anthony Morrison.
Well, very good evening to your cherished viewers, and good evening to yourself and my good friend Charles. Yes, I perfectly agree with Charles. We made these presentations last year. We made it clear that Ghana was likely to face high inflation in food as a result of certain indicators that we picked up, some of which was alluded to by Charles. In addition to that, as a country, we have failed to make the necessary budgetary allocation or investment for food and food systems in the country. If you realize, over the past 12 years, no government has made any budgetary or investment of our GDP more than 1% towards our food production in the country. And you have also realized that population have increased more than 3% ever since. And according to the Malabo and the Maputo Declaration, of which Ghana is a signatory, our expectations were that we will be making no less than 10% of our GDP or budgetary allocation for agriculture. That hasn't been the case over the past 12 years. The only budgetary allocation we've seen slightly gone above 1.1 was when the former NDC government was in power. So I think as a country, we have failed to properly align our indicators properly. Our set out priorities have failed us. We have failed to align to global phenomenon and to take strategies to forestall some of these happenings. For instance, why is it taking government and Ghana so long to have its own fertilizer factory when we have started oil exploration some 10 years ago? Our strategies are not in line with our priorities. For instance, when you look at our national security indicators, of which global national security indicators have continuously to downgrade us. First of all, there are three key areas. First, policy commitment by governments. Two, national priority areas. And three, alignment of our policies towards national priorities and global phenomenon. So to a large extent, I think that there is more to be done, both in private and public investment for agriculture systems in the country.
Let me just find this one, because I'm just looking at, the CPI for June, and I see vegetables, plantain, and the rate of inflation is 40.8%. Even live animals, meats, and other slaughtered animals is 51.6%. Milk, dairy products, eggs, 56.5%. I mean, vegetables have a rate of inflation of 40%. I mean, at the beginning of the year, we've not had a very bad weather in itself. So, Anthony Morrison, why would we have a 40% inflation when it comes to vegetables, for instance?
Okay, so let me take from vegetables and I'll talk about the livestock as well.
Sure.
So for instance, the vegetables, if you look at it, we argue that a lot of farmers do not necessarily use the organic fertilizers. And at the time where fertilizer prices have shot up, our expectations were that government would have removed the cost on organic fertilizers so that vegetable producers can adopt organic fertilization. That hasn't been the case. So government obviously was looking at the same universal application. Now, just as it was alluded to by Dr. Charles, the cost of production doesn't differ from cereals and grains to vegetables. They all adopt the same agronomic practices. Land clearing that has gone up in terms of plowing and harrowing, the cost of seed. And let me add that Ghana only produces just about 3 to 4% of its vegetable seeds that we consume. We import more than 95% of all vegetable seeds. So as our cedi depreciates against the dollar or other major currencies, so will be required of us to spend more cedis to buy more dollars or other currencies to be able to procure some of these vegetable seeds. So as a country, we may need to invest into our seed industry. The likes of WACI, West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, SARI of CSR, and the likes have been doing a great job. The only way we can forestall some of these problems is to invest heavily into R&D, research and development. That is the only way we can remain competitive or to be able to engage actively with our competitors. We are chasing the goals because we failed over the past 20 to 30 years to make any meaningful investment into research and development. Go to CSR and see the kind of resources and equipment and gadgets that they are working with at their labs. Does CSR have any of the top labs comparable to any of the European countries to be able to do some of the critical research for growth within the agriculture sector? It's a no. And let me come to the livestock.
Okay.
The cost of transhuman issues, especially in the ECOWAS sub-region. If you are moving cattle from Ghana to Ivory Coast, cattle from Ghana to Nigeria, it's a little bit cheaper. In fact, I wouldn't say it's a little bit, it's 70% cheaper than when you move cattle from Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Mali into Ghana. The cost of vaccination of one cattle is about $12. Meanwhile, when you are moving from Ghana to other countries, it's about $3 to $4. In some cases, it's even free.
Okay.
So if we are having problems with our dairy foods, it's also because as a result of the fact that 70% of our dairy foods come from outside the country, the sub-region, majority from Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and other neighboring countries. So if you go to Tulaku, for instance, close to Michel Camp, over 10,000 of goods are brought there on monthly basis, and they are all sold out. Where do we get them from? We get them from Niger and Mali. Those are the Sokoto, Gudari, the West African dwarfs, and the like. So there is a lot to be done when we're talking about, these days we don't want to be talking on media and stuff like that. People are thinking we are taking advantage, but the issues are real. The issues are eminent, and we need to take the necessary steps to forestall this. Sometimes it's not just good talking about a bad situation, but it's what we have, and you can't keep complaining. Why do we keep lining over 60 to 100 trucks going to Burkina Faso to import, when the humidity in Ghana and the salinity of the soil can give us about 7.2 bricks, which is better than anywhere in the world? So we have ourselves to blame for not investing heavily into research and development. For me, that is where we need to start from.
Great. So let me bring in, Dr. Nyaba. Dr. Nyaba, you're looking at, for instance, you're looking at, the rate of inflation, and you're told even fish, local, from the sea, and its rate of inflation is 90.8%. Year on year, 90.8%. You're looking at garden eggs, 81.2%. I mean, how's that the case, Dr. Nyaba?
Yeah, so as my colleague from Morrison indicated, you see the basis for inflation in the livestock sector. Let me take them one by one. If you take poultry, for instance, poultry farmers depend 70% of their feed from maize and soybeans. And if you look at last year, because of cost of fertilizer and cost of seeds, cost of fuel, which influence cost of plowing, most maize farmers shifted into producing tubers and then leguminous crops. So because of that, majority of poultry farmers have to actually close down, others have to scale down their production. And I think there was a point in time that there were calls from government to actually do something about it. We didn't hear anything. When you take the dairy products, like the cattle and then the goat and the sheep, last year we had to travel to Mamikro in the Afram Plains to go and settle disputes between cattle farmers and crop farmers. That conflict alone led to cattle farmers losing over 1,000 cows around that area. So we have to move them to the cattle ranches that were created by government in the Afram Plain North. But when they got there, most of them actually refused to enter there, and they have to sell out their cattle. Another issue has to do with the Boko Haram insurgents that actually block the movement of vegetables from Burkina Faso, Togo to Ghana. Within the period, you realize that some trucks were actually banned, some drivers killed for trying to bring onions, tomatoes, and other things from Burkina Faso to Ghana. So most of those who were involved in trading these vegetables to Ghana actually stopped. We indicated earlier when the former minister said that we were self-sufficient in vegetable production. We said that we get about 90% of our vegetables from Burkina. So when that happened, and Burkina-based blocked their borders, in fact, tomato prices went very high, pepper prices went very high, the same to garden eggs and the rest of the vegetables. Now, if you come to the middle belt, where we used to depend so much on vegetables like garden eggs, like tomatoes in Adam, all those areas, the farmers have shifted into producing cashew. So it has also impacted the number of farmers who are into vegetable production and the supply in the market. So all that influenced the prices. Now, as we speak, last year government passed a law that actually removed all waivers on agro products. So those who are bringing agro products like fertilizers, like and pass a law that actually remove all waivers on agro products. So those who are bringing agro products like fertilizers, like private sector, are not doing their best. It's not that farmers are just waiting and complaining and waiting for government to always come to their aid. We are doing what we can do, but there are certain critical areas that we expect that government should take those areas to actually help us to work well. Now, we complain about issue of poor irrigation facilities across the country. After the failed One Village, One Dam project, we made a number of proposals to government. But we test the budget for the past 3 years. We realized that there is no any budget allocation to irrigation development.
What were those proposals you made to government after the failure of the One Village, One Dam?
Yeah, some of the proposals we made was, given the critical nature of irrigation agriculture development in Ghana, we need to increase investment in irrigation development.
Okay.
But the One Village, One Dam concept was not properly implemented. So what we said was that instead of doing dam in every village, government should try to consolidate the funding. Maybe if you do one big dam in a district, in the following year, you go to another district, you do another big dam. The following year, you go to another district, you do another big dam. With time, you see the number of dams that will pop up. And now the dams that we are relying on, which are meaningful dams that farmers are using for irrigation purpose, are those dams that were constructed by Achampon's regime. You can talk of the Tono, you can talk of the Pong, or many of them. They are the meaningful dams that we currently have. But much has not been done in that area. Under the Economic Angle Project, which was actually spearheaded by the finance minister, I think it's a very good project. Currently, a number of good dams are being created, a number of canals, and then farms are being prepared. But the project is limited in scope. At the moment, we are still in, say, 3 regions: Greater Accra, Oti, and Volta. And even those areas that we have these projects are limited because how many farmers can go there. And we expect that there will be speedy release of funding so that this project will also scale up to other areas. That will go a long way to address issue of irrigation, issue of lack of proper farming areas for seed production, lack of infrastructure for processing and then storage. So all these are things that we are hoping will be done. But notwithstanding, I'm told there's a lot of consultation going on for the mid-year budget, and that most of these concerns that we are raising will be captured.
Great. Let me bring in, Anthony Morrison. I mean, you've talked about a lot of consultations going on, but Anthony Morrison, based on the current situation, you think there is hope?
Oh yes, certainly. As a country, we need to survive, and the only means to survival is to eat nutritious foods. I will say that the private sector is always ready to invest into the industry once they see the green light from government, taking steps to mitigate importation of unnecessary produce and inputs. I will also want to add to the fact that as a country, we are failed to take into consideration several issues that happens at the global level, which has the tendency to influence our food production and food systems. These are some of the things the Chamber of Agribusiness has been highlighting over the past years to government to take a look. For instance, when we look at how prepared are we for emergencies, and have we put in place emergency agriculture strategies that will forestall issues of food insecurity. Some of these things are very important. You look at the time the COVID came and how we were all rushing for food. Aside the COVID, the food prices jumped and several other issues, and also the Russian-Ukraine war and its impact on access to fertilizers and other agro inputs. So we have actually been doing a lot. Charles have said few of them. We have actually put in more than 12 major agro companies, some from Morocco, some from Egypt, some from Canada, to come into the country and to provide several of our players some support. We have also engaged several of financial institutions from outside who are ready and already providing mechanization credit and machinery credit and several other forms of technical support to our farmers. And not only limited to that, we are also looking at post-harvest challenges, especially in the areas of cassava. But a lot depends on how committed government is, because the only way we can move this is to make sure that government is ready to dance along or walk along with us. As far as the private sector is ready to continue to deepen the engagement level, government must also be ready to take some of the consultative advice that comes from the private sector. We have engaged with the new minister. A lot has been said and a lot we know is being put in place. But as we stand now, the production season for major season has started. Farmers have not been supported yet, and we do not know when this support is going to come. For us, we have said that subsidies for the sector is not what will grow the sector, but what is needed is pragmatic policies that will actually influence on the food production and also post-harvest. We have also stated clearly that as a country, the agriculture sector skills is very low. However, if you go to some of the major companies in the country, most of the top skills are all imported. And there is a lot to be done to strengthen the agriculture colleges around the country. There is a lot to be done to deepen agriculture technical vocational skills penetration, especially among the unemployed youth that we see on the street on a daily basis. If you go to the 5 northern regions, you can count more than 600 tractors, some of which are just as old as 6 months, lying idle. These are opportunities for us to train a lot of youth to be able to service and provide mechanization services for some of the farmers for them to be able to produce a lot for us. So there is a lot to be done when it comes to the areas of agro-processing. A lot has to be done. Our shea butter, top-notch, our honey. In fact, Ghana's honey has been banned. The Chamber of Agribusiness, working closely with GIZ, FAO, EU, UK, and veterinary services and the animal livestock division are working closely to see how we can make our honey fit for export once more. And a lot is being done that if I want to continue, time will not take us. But let me also add about that. We need to look at how we can align some of these structures. It's not that we need to create more of the government quangos like Poultry Council or Development Authority or this. No, government has little to spend on the agriculture sector. The more you create all these quangos, the more budgetary allocation for this are going to be very limited. We need to make some of these agencies of government to make sure that they have what it takes. For instance, if you go to PPRSD, the Plant Regulatory Services Department of MOFA, they need a lot of support. However, this is the biggest arm of MOFA, bringing in a lot of yes. They seriously need to upgrade the role of PPRSD to become probably the only regulatory body for the agriculture sector.
Can you hold on for me a minute? I mean, let me just bring in Charles Nyaba. This one. We need to be wrapping up. Charles Nyaba, listening to Anthony Morrison, he makes the point that the farming season has started, but not a lot has been done. So does that mean that the problems that we're facing today, because we didn't do much last year, we're going to be facing the same problem next year because we haven't done much this year? Dr. Charles Nyaba, can you hear me? Can you unmute your microphone so we can hear you, Dr. Charles Nyaba?
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I can say there's a hope for this year because the season started on a very good note. Even though we got limited support from government in terms of input subsidy, in terms of subsidy for seed and fertilizer, but my last 2 weeks visit to most of the farms shows that the crops were looking good.
Okay.
There are many other private investors who actually went to the sector. If you go to our major rice growing areas, which is in northeast, around Yagaba, Umbisi valleys, Kolembilisi, so all those areas, it will amaze you the number of big investors who went there, of which politicians are actually constituting over 50%, especially our friends from the NDC side. Okay. I want to say that it's good to be in opposition because they have come to realize that going to invest in farming makes sense.
Okay.
I can mention a big number of MPs who have created over thousands of acres. They are developing the lands on their own. There are other foreign investors who actually came there and they are current smallholder farmers alongside.
Okay.
We ourselves have also scaled up most of our production in terms of maize, in terms of soya beans, in terms of sorghum, in terms of rice. Our members alone have increased their production more than 30%. And the other good news is that last year, the cost farmers were hoping for fertilizer subsidy from government, which never came, moved into soya cashew production. The price for cashew this year was no good for them. So I went to most of the cashew growing areas and I saw a good number of farmers who moved into maize production again. So that means that our supply is likely to increase. If you also take the rainfall pattern, last year it actually impacted on the farms a lot because the drought was long. Around 27th to first week of October, there was serious flooding, which also affected most of the farms. As we speak, even though there was a little break on the first week of July, that was last week, but this week, as I spoke to most of the farmers across the various districts, it was raining the whole day today. So the raining pattern so far so good. So if that continues, it will also help. Our main hope now is on the minister. The new minister has promised us that as we are struggling on our own and planting, they are coming out with a package which will help us to further support the farmers. So we are still waiting for that package, and I'm hopeful that if he's listening to this conversation, we will speed up with whatever package he has for farmers, because we are waiting for him, and then we'll be able to improve our supply over last year.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Charles Nyaba, who is Executive Director, Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, and to you, Anthony Morrison, who is CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness, for joining us here on Upfront on the Joy News channel. My name is Winston. I'm on behalf of the team. Thank you very much for watching. Coming up is Joy News Prime.
With the EcoBank salary account, you will enjoy free life insurance, free debit card, save while you spend, and an amazing chance to double your salary, and even more consolation rewards in the EcoBank double salary promo reloaded.
Guy, this EcoBank salary account sounds interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, but maybe next time, Charlie. You know what? I'd go shine my shoe.
Yo, myself, I'd go check my BP.
We going up, never go down, and we stay fly.
Chairman, see the white sign it here.
Who be let's
Open an EcoBank salary account today for a lifetime of benefits. You also stand a chance to win more than double your salary in the EcoBank Double Salary Promo Reloaded now till July 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
This
promo is under the supervision of the National Lotteries Authority under the Caritas Lottery Platform. The Pan-African.
You are your own person, unique, one of a kind, special. That's why you deserve everything tailored to suit your particular taste, your preference, your needs. Just like MTN Just For You. You can get customized offers tailored to who you are. Dial *141# or use the MyMTN app to get to choose from a variety of offers made just for you.
account, bro. See, with the EcoBank salary account, you will enjoy free life insurance, free debit card, save while you spend, and an amazing chance to double your salary. And even more consolation rewards in the EcoBank double salary promo reloaded.
Guy, this EcoBank salary account sounds interesting. What do you think?
Yara. But maybe next time, Charlie, you know what? I had to go shine my shoe.
Yo, myself, I had to go check my BP.
We going up, never go down, and we stay fly.
Chairman, you see the white sign it here.
Open an EcoBank salary account today for a lifetime of benefits. You also stand a chance to win more than double your salary in the EcoBank Double Salary Promo Reloaded from now till July 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
And the top life regardless.
Promo is under the supervision of the National Lotteries Authority under the Caritas Lottery Platform. The Pan-African.
Kwajo, why are you late?
Yes, Kojo. Why are you late again?
Kwajo.
Can't you talk? See, Mommy, I could lie like Amma and say I was doing my homework with my friends. Or lie like Amma and say I was helping Grandma buy food. Mommy, I will not lie like Amma. I was playing with my friends, and that is why I'm late.
Homework now. Thank you for not lying to me. Your Calipo is in the fridge.
Calipo, the natural fruit juice drink.
Abdi, you know that.
This advert is FDA approved.
Research has it that malaria is one of the most deadliest diseases in this part of the world. So, whenever you're feeling cold, feverish, nausea, or fatigue, get tested. If it is malaria, do not worry. I have good news for you.
Let's all go back. Malaria's scared of Lonat.
Malaria's remedy is Lonat. Therefore, we're gonna use Lonat to recover. You have malaria?
Yes, please.
Are you shivering?
Yes, yes.
You got chills?
Yes,
Take
yes.
Lonat.
Lonat.
First day.
Lonat.
Take Lonat.
Let's all
Second day.
Lonat.
Take Lonat.
Lonat.
Third day.
Lonat.
Take Lonat.
Malaria's scared of Lonat.
That's all. Lonat scatter malaria. Lonat it is scatter malaria.
A quality product from Blaze GVS Pharma.
Prime Headlines is brought to you by
Don't take risks. Use a condom every time.
And thanks to Malatu, I kicked out malaria one time.
Some spices. Yes, sir.
Live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 125, also on my